So I'd like to welcome everybody to today's SharePoint Shop Talk, and for joining the conversation. I'm looking forward to today because we have another panelist spotlight, and very informative in terms of how to use PDFs. And just give me 1 second. Laura has came in, and I just made her an organizer. Okay, so my name is Jamie. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
My name is Jamie Wright, and I'm SharePoint ShopTalk Community Manager. For those of you who have not visited our site, we're on www.sharepointshoptalk.com. We also have a Twitter account at SP ShopTalk, and the organizers are Clovis, New York City. You can find us on Twitter as well. And we're on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can just look up SharePoint ShopTalk or the New York Enterprise Search User Group, and you can join those groups. Just quick overview about how to use GoToWebinar if this is your first time. You have your dashboard on the side, and the red arrow there, it enlarges it or makes it smaller. And you can raise your hand if you have any questions throughout the event, as well as ask questions in your question box there as well. So just to let you know, if you're on the phone call, please do not put us on hold. You can hang up and call back. If you need an audio pen, you can raise your hand and I'll send you one. You should be able to see it when you usually log on. And to mute and unmute yourself on the phone, you press *6, and you can unmute yourself and mute yourself on a dashboard. Always remember to state your name and your question, and remember that no question is too big or too small. So without further ado, we're going to begin introducing our panelists, starting with Laura Rogers.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Rogers. I work at our company. The company I work for, SharePoint 911, got acquired by Rackspace, so I work at Rackspace Hosting. And I've been working in SharePoint for about 8 years now, and I am a SharePoint MVP. I've written these books up on the screen. Basically, my forte is anything you can do out of the box in SharePoint, like InfoPath, DataView Web Parts, SharePoint Designer workflows. I love all that stuff. So that's about it.
Thanks for joining us. And I think I'm going to put up a new section for you that does say Rackspace, and your blog has SharePoint 911, so that everyone can see the difference.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, Laura.
Right.
And next up is Natalia Voskresenskia.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Very well, yes.
Perfect. So my name is Natalia Voskresenskia. I've been SharePoint MVP since 2008, and in general, I worked with the SharePoint product since 2003 version of the platform. I'm also enterprise search engineer with Clovis and SharePoint architect, and I co-authored one of the very first Microsoft Enterprise Search books, which is a professional Microsoft search. It covers fast search for SharePoint, SharePoint Search, Search Server, and all of the flavors of search available from Microsoft right now. And I'm also VTSP at Microsoft, and I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, and Natalia has on her blog, for those of you that are in New York, the New York Enterprise Search, or near New York Enterprise Search Summit is taking place, I believe, in the middle of May, and I have the dates coming up in the announcement section. But if you want to check out and get a great discount, if you haven't already registered, you can go to Natalia's blog and get that.
Right, and also if you decide to attend Enterprise Search Summit, I want to mention that one of our panelists, Paul Alenik, he's actually going to be speaking there, and Paul can talk about it in more detail.
Yep. You're up next, Paul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Olenek. I'm a consultant with Clovis, where we specialize in SharePoint, and I specialize in enterprise search there. As Natalia just mentioned, I am going to be speaking at the Enterprise Search Summit, and I'll be covering sort of a really brief overview of architecture and troubleshooting for fast search for SharePoint.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. Oh, I think there's an echo. But next up, we have John White, also a Microsoft MVP, and say hello to the group. John, sorry.
Hi everybody, it's John White. As mentioned, I'm a SharePoint MVP. I'm also a SQL Server VTS with Microsoft here in Canada. Work for a company called Unlimited Viz. We specialize primarily with business intelligence products for SharePoint. If you happen to be in the Toronto area in May, there's a SharePoint Summit coming up. I think the information of that's on my blog. I'll be speaking there on reporting services. I think it's reporting for duty, best practices in reporting services. I don't like best practices, more like what I've run into. But anyway, good to be here.
Oh, nice. I like that. So it's like a more real-world approach, correct?
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. So just before we begin, I just wanted to thank our COVIS, our SharePoint experts and search specialists, for helping to organize SharePoint ShopTalk, Gold Certified Partners, and virtual technology solution professionals. And if you have any questions, you can always email them at info@covis.com, especially about their new boxed offerings, Fast in a Box, SharePoint Internet Deployment, and Search First Migration. Just a couple of news before we begin. Laura Rogers will be speaking in London on the Information Worker track, so if you're around that area, please check that out. Paul Lennox talked that from 2 weeks ago, 5 simple things you can do to make a big impact on your SharePoint Search Center, is now on our COVIS New York YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And then we already talked about the Enterprise Search Summit in New York City on May 15th and 16th. And last but certainly not least, today is actually one part of a 2-part series. Adlib has taken control of this for this session, and they'll be joining K2 for the next session to talk about document compliance management, automation, and SharePoint. And that link there to register will be given to everyone who attended today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. We have Karen Haynes and Jeff Brand.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Jeff and I both are working at Adlib together. And Jamie, do you want us to go right into the presentation?
Sure, why not? I'll give you presenter rights right now.
Okay, great.
You're all set.
Great. I'm just going to, how do I make it smaller? Let's see. There we go. All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We happened to meet Jamie recently in New York when we were doing a roadshow with K2, and there's quite a bit of a synergy of what we do with K2. So we thought we would join together again and be able to share with you some key aspects of our solution. This first part, like Jamie said, is really, we're going to highlight Adlib because we're going to try to keep this to about 10 minutes in terms of content slides, and spend about 20 minutes doing a demonstration for you. And we'll hopefully allow you lots of time to ask questions at the end. Instead of trying to go back and forth on this technology, it's probably a little bit easier if you can just write down your questions or send them in on your panel, and Jamie will feed them back to us if that makes sense too. So I'll just spend a couple minutes talking about who we are, because a lot of you might have never heard of who Adlib is before. Some of the clients and scenarios that Adlib's used for. Just talk a little bit about the enterprise content flow in SharePoint and how it relates to Adlib. Second, why use PDF in this process? A lot of people are using all sorts of documents. Why is PDF important in the SharePoint environment? And what is Adlib PDF Enterprise, the main product that Adlib supports, including our SharePoint connector, and how that can benefit you. And then, again, we'll go right into just doing a basic demonstration of our solution with online here for you, okay? So who is Adlib? We've been around for about 10 years or more. We have 4,500 customers globally in all sorts of industries because we provide server-based PDF conversion tools and OCR tools. So they're deployed within larger document management solutions. We're a depth partner with Microsoft for our support of their SharePoint, the SharePoint ecosystem, and we also are embedded in other document systems like Documentum and OpenText. And we're used often in specialty applications, PLM systems, regulatory submissions types of applications. Anywhere where companies are drowning in documents, we help to make this digital approach to document management more possible. So in terms of industries, we work in all sorts of industries, like I mentioned, but we seem to focus heavily in certain industries that are drowning in documents, like financial services and life sciences, legal, of course, even manufacturing, deal with a lot of types of documents that are related to instruction sets and policies that affect the quality and management of their product. And of course, healthcare and government are heavily document-centered. So we can talk a little bit about the general content flow within SharePoint and how we seem to connect. Typically, customers are bringing in all sorts of documents in their SharePoint environment, and they want to make sure they're searchable. We just mentioned that there's a fast search expert on the panel, and she'll probably be able to relate to the fact that that is one of the most heavily invested areas that customers are making right now, is being able to search documents in their system. So during that process of capturing and creating documents in the SharePoint environment, we want to make sure they're as searchable as possible, not just by name, but involving the metadata on the documents and making sure the content within the documents are completely searchable. So anyone who's onboarding images, for example, want to make those at least more accessible to the end user. And then during the process of being able to manage and work with documents, we have to create documents that are easy for people to view on their desktops, to share with other people, as well as annotate them or create some sort of security features on those documents to making them easier to manage during the process. And I often liken PDF in workflow processes as a way to create a snapshot of a business process at a particular point of time. So anywhere along the process of a document, there might be a point in time where we said we have to know and record what version of this process we're managing right now and create a snapshot of that. And PDF is an ideal format for that. And then, of course, at the end of that, we have an output of different documents that we share with our customers, with the rest of the world. We collaborate on documents. PDF, again, is an ideal format for delivering and publishing content out on the net, in mobile devices, and any sort of form or fashion where you want to normalize the document types. And finally, a big part of document management is the process of managing the information on a long term. Depending on the industry you're in, and I'm sorry that this isn't specific to your industry necessarily, because I'm not aware of, well, this particular session is geared towards anybody who's interested in SharePoint rather than a specific industry, but there seems to be different variations of archive requirements, anywhere from 5 years to 100 years, and some people are archiving thousands of years worth of documents. If you for example, with the Italian government who we work with, they have stuff that's practically a papyrus. And PDF and PDF-A is an ideal format for archiving documents because in the long term it captures all the content as well as the fonts and the images and makes it accessible for future reference. So I alluded to some of these, and I'm just whipping through these slides because I don't want to take too much time talking about this and really to show you the solution in hand, but the PDF really is the ideal format for securing and searching information in a system like that. Not only that, it is non-proprietary, and there's an ISO standard attached, so you do own the content. Nobody else does. So we'll talk about the different aspects of the PDF Enterprise product. PDF Enterprise product is a tool that sits as an engine with a management layer that allows our customers to attach it again to SharePoint or any other application that is running their documents. And one of the main properties of having a solution like this is transforming their content into the PDF. And we do that for a purpose. We do that because efficiencies are dramatically improved when we automate that process. Front office error is virtually eliminated in the process of automating document conversions. And users are allowed to focus on their work and not on PDF conversion. It doesn't make sense if you're investing heavily in SharePoint to have an end user pull a document off of SharePoint onto their desktop, pull a conversion together and put it back onto SharePoint, either with or without a workflow. So we want to help. SharePoint natively does not include a product that allows you to do that. So Adlib fills the gap in that respect. So in the conversion portion of our product, we can help support the conversion of pretty much any type of document to PDF with bookmarks and hyperlinks. This makes it quite easy to use PDF as a standard in the organization because we can pretty much consume any of the content that you might be working with, whether it's current or legacy formats. The result is we can provide not just a PDF, but actually really high quality PDF. And if you're in the life sciences or legal industry, you know that that is very important to have a high quality output. Again, a compliant output for long-term archiving in the PDFA format. That's controlled, by the way, the standards are set by an association that's based out of Germany, and we sit on the board for that. So we have some input in terms of not just PDFA, but the standards that are related to that in the marketplace. And then finally, some customers already have PDFs and some don't, and they want conversion, but they also want to be able to run a process called OCR and make those images searchable. We can work with you on that. A lot of times we're solving business problems for customers where they have multiple documents in different types, and they want to create a final PDF that merges those documents together in a specific order and might have a table of contents, have intelligent hyperlinking and bookmarking. They want a watermark, they might want other features put on it. But merging is an excellent usage of Adlib's tools because there might be an application, for example, on the financial side where you're combining documents for a board book, or you're doing a sales proposal and you have an image or a PDF from one source and a Word document from another, an Excel file from another, and they need to be merged together and presented back as a single document. We can work with that. And then in the reverse, we have customers who have said that we have large volumes of documents, and based on a specific rule, they want to volumize it into more smaller and more manageable PDF documents. Finally, the enhanced portion of our engine allows you to automatically apply features and customize those documents on the output. What's particularly important or relevant in the SharePoint environment is that we can do that as rules driven by metadata that's been maintained in the SharePoint environment. So coming from the document, from the system, there might be a particular metadata that drives a rule that says when this document is approved and it has the status of approved, we want to apply approved watermark on the document, and then convert PDF and put it in a particular library. So that's customizing a PDF output based on metadata for this article. Along with that, SOPs, for example, someone might want to put a date stamp on something to say that this document was pulled from SharePoint on the date that pulled off the system, or when that document there's a says, you know, it's valid until X, Y, Z. So there's lots of applications for watermarks, headers, footers, tables of contents, anything that relates to customizing that output. Now we look at how can we build some efficiencies in a SharePoint environment. One of them is to automate that, and so like I mentioned before, we'll leverage metadata to improve the output consistency, and we'll also include a comprehensive rules engine that allows you to simplify the output of those documents based on rules. And you can apply those rules to documents based on who sends it or what the status of that document is, or any piece of metadata that you feel is relevant to determining the outcome of that document. And then as far as integration options go, our SharePoint enterprise product includes a SharePoint connector. So you eliminate all the time and energy expended into building a connector to automate and integrate our tools within SharePoint. However, if you do wish to customize an integration to SharePoint or any other application, we provide a web services interface and folder connectors. And folder connectors are really the simplest format of connecting with smaller application sets where a folder is basically watched, and once the document hits it, our engine intakes it and converts or applies OCR process and then outputs it into an output folder for you to pick up for another application. So just briefly, the enterprise architecture that we've designed allows our customers to scale their environment quite quickly. A lot of our clients might only need one server for quite some time, but over time, once they've decided that they want to connect the Adlib environment to multiple applications, or they're just growing in terms of volumes of documents, we built a services-oriented architecture that allows you to have one management console and connector to multiple Adlib engine servers. So you can drop those in as required. You can leverage your own existing database infrastructure or use the one that's provided. And there's options for building high availability environments, failover, load balancing, and just doing selective job management. So if you have prioritization for jobs coming from a certain line of the business or a certain document type, that's possible with Adlib. So I'm going to turn this quickly over to Jeff. I think I've stayed within my 10 minutes. I'm sorry I whipped through that so quickly, but if you do have any general questions, hopefully Jeff's demo will answer them for you. And then if you have any more specific questions, we'll answer them at the end, or you can follow up with us after and we can do a specific demo to your documents, your environment. Your business problem might be different that we can discuss, and we're more than happy to set up one-on-ones. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. So what I'm going to show you here is a typical workflow within SharePoint to publish a document, and show you some of the advantages that you can get by leveraging the PDF file format in communication, collaboration, and even distribution of your content. So in our sample workflow here, we're going to pretend to be a company called ECT Aerospace. And here I have a document set here called ECT Aerospace. And what we have is a proposal for some add-ons to an F-18 fighter. And that proposal consists of a number of files in various file formats. So you can see I have a cover page as a Word document, an introduction letter, an image, a CAD drawing, and a PDF data sheet, as well as an Excel spreadsheet, and in fact an image of that spreadsheet having been signed. So I'll just show you, we have, when I pull that up, just a TIFF image, which would represent a received fax of that quotation having been approved and forwarded back to our company. And of course, this would not be in its current state searchable at all from within SharePoint. So because it is an image only, none of the content can be searched. So if I were to do a search on, say, this quotation number or any text within this document, I might find I would expect to find the spreadsheet that has the data, but not this signed and approved one, which is critical in many aspects of the day-to-day workflow. So what I want to do in this case is I want to bundle all of these documents into a single compound PDF that's completely text searchable and also exposes certain things such as my proposal number on the document. And that happens through our SharePoint workflow connector automatically based on some trigger, some larger workflow, or in this case I could manually just kick off the workflow by going to the workflow screen and choosing to merge the workflow. Also, if I have a need to simply convert a single document to PDF, I can click the Convert Content to PDF workflow and just convert a single document. In here, we're going to use the Merge Content to PDF in order to get the entire combination of documents into a single output. Now, what I'm going to do is just take you to the resulting document here and show you the effect that we have, and then I'll take you into the Adlib user interface and show you how did we achieve these features. So when I click on that document, the first thing you may notice is that PDF bookmarks are generated showing the structure of that content. So all of the individual documents are represented by a single bookmark, and the title of the document not the file name, is used. So we have a nice readable structure. In addition, we analyze the content of Microsoft Office file formats, so Word and Excel, to automatically build structure within those documents. So you'll see within the proposal letter, I have children sections, and this is based on the analysis of the heading styles within that document. Similar to building a table of contents inside Word, except with the advantage of being able to do it across multiple files and across multiple file formats. And in Excel, if you'll remember, we had the Excel file that was a quotation. We have a couple of pages within that quotation, and these are the individual worksheets within the Excel file that we create an individual bookmark for. And you'll see that we also have that signed image. Now, one of the other things you might notice, I'll just go back and show you, that we also generate in a similar fashion the table of contents. Let's see if my computer catches back up with me. So this is really, the table of contents is similar to PDF bookmarks. It's a navigation tool to help you find the destination you're looking for. Of course, the table of contents makes sense if you're going to create hard copies of your document, because the PDF bookmarks don't go with paper. However, the PDF bookmarks are relevant for an electronic distributed model because it's always with you no matter where you are in the document. So it's a really handy tool to have. So I'll just take you to the proposal letter and show you that I can use this bookmark to navigate through the document. Perhaps I'm interested in finding out about non-US service. If I click on that, it instantly takes me to that section within the document. Also, we're able to take the image, and not only do we embed it within this PDF and normalize the size so that all the paper sizes are the same, we're also able to ensure that there's enough room around the image and any page and content so that any footer, which we've applied dynamically, page number, header, and markings up the left-hand side are visible, regardless of the content that would otherwise have been obscured behind it. Now you'll see this proposal number is applied. I'll show you when we go into the Adlib user interface that the proposal number is actually driven dynamically based on the value within SharePoint. And any document property, whether it's embedded in the document or, associated in SharePoint about that document, can be used to determine whether or not to do something and actually used as data applied on the document. So, for example, Karen was mentioning earlier about the status of a document and putting approved. Quite often, what you would have is a scenario where if the document status is not approved, then in big letters right across the document on every page, show the document status, whatever it is, because it's not approved. If it is approved, don't put a watermark at all, but up in the header indicate who approved it, when it was approved, and why it was approved. So really dynamic, that type of logic we can embed within our engine, and that way you can come up with new statuses that are not approved, and the process remains unchanged. Now, in addition, we support a multitude of file formats. We have a really good engine for converting CAD drawings, which is normally a challenge in distributing that type of information to customers and vendors and partners because they need to have their own copy of that CAD software. There's a whole myriad of those applications out there, and it can be very expensive, sometimes upwards of $20,000 just for a single license of this CAD software, sometimes needed just to work with someone who uses that particular software. Instead, with Adlib, you can render the CAD drawing to PDF, and we do a few unique things with our CAD to PDF conversion. We maintain the vector quality graphics. So in a CAD drawing, everything is defined as points and curves and lines, and we do the same thing. So instead of having individual pixels, it's actually drawn with vector quality graphics. So you can zoom in to an infinite level of detail and never have any loss of accuracy or detail in the drawing. As well, we have the ability to maintain layers and their initial visibility, where we can turn on or off the individual layers within the drawing so that the reviewer can actually modify the appearance of it so they can inspect certain areas. Perhaps a part of this piping was obscured by a fuel tank, and I can remove that image of the fuel tank so I can get into the details of that particular component and make sure that it meets my requirements. And Of course, this is all embedded within one single document. So when I need to share this contract with somebody, they don't need to use multiple applications to view the document and the content, and they don't have to have any special application to view it. Plugins are available if the browser doesn't support it natively. Every operating system and every device that's out there today can pretty much view PDF content. So another feature is that the quality of the documents is a really highly maintained, what we call fidelity or rich rendering. We use an automation approach that is similar to what an end user would do if they were manually creating PDFs one by one, where we automate the native application that created the software, the document, create the PDF version of it, and then even validate the results against the source, so that when we automate a process like this, we can also ensure the accuracy and compliance. In a lot of cases, we're dealing with compliance, and we want to make sure that there are no changes, so that the author isn't surprised with unwanted artifacts, missing content, or resources. And finally, with the OCR embedded within this, if you remember, we had the signed quotation. You can see it was printed out and signed and faxed back to us. By going through the Adlib engine, it also makes it fully text searchable, so I can search on the quotation number and find this document. It also means that this document is now searchable within the full text indexing search within SharePoint. So this document, as well as the original, will now show up in the search results, so I can find this approved version. And finally, we can also automatically build an index. So we would look for each key phrase within the document and then build the index of words plus the references within the document, so you can easily find key phrases, and you have full control over which words are included or excluded in this process, and whether or not to even create an index when you're publishing your content. So what I'd like to show you next is how did we achieve some of these feats. And so within our application, I'll show you. So this is our web-based management console, and this allows you to instantly view the status of your system and also administer the system. So it allows us to determine the status of our jobs, the status of the environment. So if there were any component within our technology that was not functioning correctly, we'd see an alert, and we could address that alert, usually proactively and before any end user has been affected by any ill working process. So what I'd like to show you are the simplicity of configuring the settings, and how did I get, say, the SharePoint metadata stamped on the document. I'm just going to put this in edit mode and just show you a couple of features. So one of the things is we have a condition and then a collection of settings. So what I'm going to show is this default merge rule. So what happens is first we have this condition, and if I expand that condition, we can see it's an if then sort of sequence. So if the assembly name, and this name, it seems like a long bit of information to have to remember, but we actually have a selector box where you can go through and find these components. And what we want to know is if the workflow, what this equates to within SharePoint, is the multiple document workflow, and we can have additional items if we wish, then apply all of these settings. And the settings are available on the left, and you just drag them over. So, for example, we may want to see what are the footer settings. So if I take a look at the merge footer settings, we can see that this data is not to be copied or used without permission, and we have full control over the appearance, the background, on which pages it appears on, total flexibility in the appearance of the stamping. And the other one, if I go down here, is a watermark. And this is where it gets really interesting, because we're going to expose SharePoint metadata within the document. So we're going to apply the text, and the text is going to be the word proposal, colon, so that's the name of that metadata value actually in SharePoint, but we're going to show it in human terms. And then this $ bracket says we're going to place this with the actual value at runtime based on the value that was in SharePoint, and then align it up the left-hand side going straight up. So if you'll remember, that's this document, oops, let me scroll down here, this here. So that created this content here, proposal, and the proposal number being driven right out of SharePoint. And that just shows, one example of the highly flexible capability where I could have also used that in the condition where if this value equals a certain number, then do something or apply this collection of settings. And you have full control over all of the appearance, color, style, fonts, even opacity of any of the attributes that you apply to the document. So it's really that simple. We do all kinds of things such as digital signatures, as you can see here. We can split documents. If you have a very large document and you need to convert it to a smaller component, we can, here's the index that we apply. There's all kinds of things, and it's all by a drag and drop environment. Another one of the key advantages of Adlib is that it is enterprise capable and scalable. So that's part of the reason why you'll see this UI is presented within a web application, is because I'm going into what could be any number of servers, and I can monitor a large number of servers from a single point. So I can see from this one location all of the system components, their status. I can view the logs, so you can see I have a couple of machines by the first part of this name here, and I can tell if everything is running, if there's been a stall, if there's any type of alert. I can take a look at the outstanding jobs that are in the system and drill into the details of a particular job, and as well pull up rich reports so that I can understand over time what has the system load been, what has my success been, and even analyze things such as success trends. So if there's a particular failure and I want to know why there was a failure, I can query that and understand the most common reasons and then address the most or the highest priority issues within my environment. Quite often it'll be things like a password's been applied to a document and then sent for automatic conversion. Well, if we don't know the password to open the document, we wouldn't be able to create a PDF of it. So it can be a matter of educating the users. Likewise, with system load, we can take a look at peak provisioning. So for example, over time, the system is only being utilized at an average of 20%, but you constantly get complaints from the users that the system's too slow. They're waiting long periods of time to get their documents, and through a quick query you can realize that everybody's submitting all of their documents at 4 o'clock because they finished their day's work and they need to wait for the results to come back before they go home. So then we can either provision for that peak by introducing additional capacity within the environment, or we can educate the users about the time of day use and that they could get better throughput at, say, 10 a.m. or some other alternative time throughout the day. So that really represents what I wanted to show in the demonstration today. So I'll go back, and if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to address them either over the phone or through the chat.
Actually, I think there's one question that is coming up on the screen right now. Can Adlib extract InfoPath attachments and combine them into a PDF?
Sure. Well, right now we have the capacity to render the InfoPath form with its data to PDF for archiving. Pulling out the attachments and merging them with the original form into a PDF is one of the things that's currently on our roadmap. So I would expect to see that within the coming year.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate the question. Anyone else? You'll have to open up the lines, I think.
Yes, there are more questions coming in, and he's asking, I'll read them to you, and then I'll send them off to the group. It says, also, is it required to have a third-party workflow tool or SharePoint Designer, or will SharePoint Designer work?
Our workflows you can use right out of the box. You can leverage a third-party workflow tool. So you probably, certainly you heard earlier about the reference with K2. You may have also seen references to Nintex within this demonstration. The SharePoint Designer will work, as well as you can make more advanced workflows without any third-party tools using Visual Studio Workflow Designer.
Okay. And Fred, I'm going to unmute you because I want to make sure that your answers these answers are answering your question. Fred, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Did it answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you. That's it.
All right.
Mentioned in the roadmap, so that was.
So we can't hear Fred very well on our end, but we trust that that's okay. And if it isn't, feel free to type in another question or get hold of us after the event, and we'd be happy to go into a deeper dive.
Sure. And let's see here. I believe Kim is asking, can you please discuss licensing?
So licensing in terms of how it's applied, or what is do you have a more specific question we can help you in terms of licensing?
Kim, you're unmuted. You can ask her. Oh, wait, I think I muted the wrong Kim. Sorry. Kim Ryan. For some reason, I think that people are having a hard time. I'm having a hard time hearing you, Kim.
So the most common question I get is how are licenses applied? And just so you know, we apply licenses on a per server basis. So it allows for unlimited numbers of renditions and users. It's just a flat rate for whatever features you choose. So whether a customer wants all the full set of features that we described, or there's specific ones that they're interested in, like OCR only, we have licensing that's geared towards that scenario. We typically just want to talk to you about your problem at hand and see what type of solution fits best, and work on providing you the most accurate pricing from there.
All right, that answered her questions. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Trying to see here. I don't see any other questions, Karen. And
okay. We thank everyone for their attendance, and again, we're more than happy to go through this in more detail if you have an open project at hand or something you're thinking about implementing down the road. Our first and primary goal is to make our customers feel like they're getting their solutions needs met through an automated PDF conversion tool, but we've worked on all sorts of solutions in this area, so feel free to let us know.
All right, and yes, in a follow-up email for today's session, I will include Karen's information so you can contact her directly as well. So, Karen, I'm going to take over presenter rights, and let's see here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming on, and I'm really looking forward to K2 joining you next on May 10th. And I was really impressed today, as well as when I saw your presentation earlier last month.
Yeah, so the K2 event, the next one, what we'll be demoing there is different. We'll be demoing how you can take a workflow process in SharePoint. It could be a very straightforward process or a looping process or extremely complicated process, and drag and drop Adlib functionality within that workflow. And so K2 has some excellent user tools to simplify building workflow within SharePoint, and Adlib can extend the capabilities of SharePoint, and through the synergy of those two products, make it very, very simple for the end user and administrator setup.
All right, we look forward to that, and thank you one more time. I really appreciate it.
All right.
So we had some questions that was slotted for 2 weeks ago, and we wanted to bring them back up. Now, Russell, I see you're on the call. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your questions directly to the panel. Go ahead, Russell. Russell, are you there? Well, Russell, I'm going to move on. I'm going to, you can chat message me. I know that we have Cindy on the call, and she also had a question for today. Cindy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good, good. Okay, one of the questions we had today, and I've got a graphic there of it. This is a customized search page that we've created. And when the customer comes in to look at the search page, they get that unable to display web part. And we're pretty sure it's because of the timeout issue that we're having with it being set back from 5 seconds to 1 second, and HP hasn't implemented the patch yet. So we have to deal with this for a while. And so the question was, does anybody know how to hide that message that comes up that says unable to display the web part? It's concerning to the users because they think there's something wrong initially when they first come into the site.
What web part is it?
I don't know what web part, I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay, so when you go into edit mode on that page, does it show the name of a web part or anything there?
Can you unmute Shankar? He's the developer. He could probably answer that better than I.
Okay. Shankar, you're unmuted.
Yeah, it's a data form web part.
It's
Yes,
the
I
what?
hear you.
Data form web part. It's not. It's not. Yeah.
What are you using it for? What is it supposed to show there?
It usually has to show what are the items inside the list, and it does show that. But what happened was, like, I have added some customized code inside that, and when I'm going to do a search, what happens? I have to get the results, and I don't see this error. This error comes only when I have the page size to be around 500 or 600. When I set the page size as 100 or 50, I don't get this error.
One of the things that you can do here, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What you can do is actually overwrite the CSS on this particular page to not display this message. Look up the CSS style for this particular message. You can actually overwrite it with your custom CSS. For example, if you put the content editor web part and override the display none.
No, but this particular error message, that is correlation ID so-and-so number, this is coming from the server, right? This is something the server gives you the error message.
Right.
It is not a CSS, right?
Well, yes, the server provides this error message, but error message actually is being displayed within some type of CSS style.
Okay.
So one of the ways to hide it is to override the CSS style with your in the content editor web part. For example, to set display none.
Okay, but we are using only the SharePoint Designer, and we are using only client-side coding, and we don't do any server-side coding. So because I think all the files will be in the 14 archive, and or in the, I think 29 14 archive, so we can't keep our hands on those files. So is there any way that we can do it on the client side?
Natalia, are you there?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Did you get my question, or do you want me to repeat it?
Hey Shankar, sorry, I had a phone call.
Okay.
Yes, can you repeat it?
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is all the CSS files will be sitting inside the 14 archive folder inside the server, and we are not supposed to keep hands on that.
Absolutely, and this is what I'm saying. You don't have to modify the original CSS that's located on the server itself. You can actually look up the CSS style that corresponds to that message, and then put in your content editor web part, put it like above this data view web part, and override the CSS style. So that CSS would apply only to that page, only to the section.
Okay, thanks. I think I'll just try it out, yeah.
You could also add a CSS file into the style library and reference it in the page and do that too. So you got a lot of ways to do that on the client side.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I can have my own CSS, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yep.
I'll do it.
And
Thanks.
just
Yeah, thanks a lot.
there's a site property for overriding CSS. You can set that, and that way you don't stomp on any of the stuff in the server. It loads after the core CSS.
Okay. And do you have any idea on what is the CSS file that is used for displaying this error message for this particular one? Do you have any idea on that?
It's really hard. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but if you turn on the, I think, developers tools or,
Yep.
yeah, developer tools, MIE, you can literally navigate to that section, and that will tell you all the CSS styles that are to that section.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, I can do that, yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Cindy and Shankar, for your question. I'm muting you again because I just don't know where I'm getting the feedback from.
Okay.
No problem, but thank you so much for your question. Russell is having problems with his mic, but I want to see if
I think my mic is working now.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right, you can ask your question.
This was a couple of weeks ago when I asked this, so I'm trying to remember the context. We've added a custom content type to a document library, and you know, I don't think I need to ask this question. I think the issue's already been resolved.
Okay.
On second thought, I'm looking back at this and I forgot what the original issue was, but it's been resolved now, so I don't need to ask it.
Okay. No problem. Did you understand? Can you share how you fixed it, or was it something that was done on someone else's end?
Well, what happens when you add a content type to a document library? The document library inherits all the columns of the content type. What my issue was, though, when I had a BCS lookup column. When you add a BCS lookup columns can't be added to site content types. They can only be added to content types within document libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue was that once I added the site content type, once I added the BCS column to the document library, any content types that were added after the BCS column was added didn't get the BCS column, because that column is only added to existing content types within the document library. So my solution was just to create a whole bunch of document types, a whole bunch of content types at once, and reserve them for future use, so I don't have to worry about the issue. It's kind of a confusing issue.
That's really frustrating. I've come across, this is Laura, I've come across using those external data fields, a lot of frustration with that. Like the fact that you can't create it as a site column, which is related to what you just said. And then there's the fact that you can't set the value in it just via workflow.
I didn't even run into that.
You have to actually go into the picker and go and pick your thing and, you know, all that stuff. You can't do any of that just via workflow, say, set this value to this. I've tried like the big long code that it gives for every record. I've tried, you know, setting.
Right.
I've tried several different things and it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Makes you want to just hire a developer and not use it.
I'm the one they hired.
Ditto.
Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Russell, as always. We have a general question coming in from Fred, and he asks, is it possible to create a custom edit form for a particular content type in a document library?
Yes.
Well, what was that question again?
I hope you guys can see the question. I just sent it to you. It says, is it possible to create a custom edit form for a particular content type in a document library?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just pull up SharePoint Designer and verify what I say this as I say it. But hold on. So I believe that you just go into that, into SharePoint Designer and open that library and hit, new form. I'll just double check that though. New edit form. Yeah. So on the little create new list form screen in SharePoint Designer, on that, when you go to that library in SharePoint Designer, there's a forms over on the right. It says this form, edit form, upload. So you can create a new one and call it the edit item form and give it a name and say set the content type to use. And then once you pick that content type, then that form is the one that will be used whenever that content type, whenever you open an item of that content type. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Or
yes, he says that answers his question.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Laura. And I want our panel to bear with me for one more minute before we say goodbye for today. Isabella's not online, but she really asked that we answer this question if possible. She's using an out-of-box feedback workflow, and its workflow starts manually and may run multiple times in the same. I actually can't read the same document, and she needs to view all the feedback responses on one screen. So she's creating a dashboard which should display comments similar to example below. And the dashboard she uses as a data source. And I'm trying to get down to the question. My screen is being blocked.
That's really frustrating. I know exactly what she's talking about. I've actually called Microsoft. I've called Microsoft about this before. Because it was so frustrating trying to get to the data because you can only see it on that workflow status screen. And they really didn't have an answer. They just said it's buried in like an XML file somewhere or something like that, and that kind of tough luck. But the problem is that you're using the out-of-the-box feedback workflow. So what I do instead of using just the out-of-the-box one, if she has access to SharePoint Designer, then she can use the out-of-the-box, just that feedback, it's called start feedback process, that action, and that is the same thing as the out-of-the-box feedback workflow. But so what I've done in situations where I needed to have all those comments is I created a custom list in the site and called it change history or something like that. And then inside the SharePoint Designer workflow, after each action happens or after like a task gets completed, I have it create list item action in the workflow and have it go and create the change history list item and just set a bunch of fields in it, like set like the name of the related item and what the comment was and who made the comment and stuff like that. And then you'd have to just display that all like in a filtered web part or something alongside all your original items. But that's kind of how the kludgy way that I've kind of gotten around it and done my own custom thing.